All right, a new Cape Flats group called Hot Fall Capetonians is making waves. It's pushing for an independent Cape Town. It's also calling for black people to be bussed back to Cape Town, saying they are trying to black out the mother city. Joining us now via Skype is political analyst Thapelo Talapedi. Thapelo, thank you for joining us. Now, could you give us an insight and paint a picture of what's really going on with this group? What's it about, and what is it advocating?
Look, at least publicly, it's a fairly new group. Obviously, some of the racial tensions have been simmering in the Western Cape for some time now. Obviously, regarding the issue of people coming from the Eastern Cape going to the Western Cape, obviously, and obviously this has to do with housing issues. Also, for many people, not just in the Eastern Cape, but outside of the Western Cape, yes, Cape Town does have a lot of opportunities. So, and that obviously brings quite a number of people, even outside of the borders, going into Cape Town. And that does put a strain on a lot of social services, obviously, in that province. The same, obviously, then goes for Johannesburg. But there are obviously racial tensions, as we know, with some of the assumptions being made as well, in some of the, utterances by public figures in the province talking about those outside of that province being effectively immigrants. So it's going to be interesting as how that group is going to be engaged politically by the political parties there as well. I think they're going to have to get into those things. But part of what I understand from that group is an issue that Cape Town belongs to a particular group of people, those who are indigenous or First Nation group, and that so services should ordinarily flow accordingly. But obviously this is not in accordance with our constitutional dispensation and the sort of value system that we've accepted in 1996.
Hey, Mr. Thapelo Talapedi, let me be very, very clear for our viewers. I want you to break it down for me. This Hot Fall Capetonians, are they saying they want black people in Cape Town, or they want black people out of Cape Town? Can you break it down for me?
Seemingly, they're saying that black people should leave Cape Town.
They're saying black people should leave Cape Town.
Should leave Cape Town, yes.
Leave Cape Town, okay. And that Cape Town should be reserved for who and what?
For those people who would be indigenous. So
who are the indigenous people?
Look, part of the argument there is you're looking at people such as the Khoi or the San, who are regarded as the First Nation or indigenous people, but also that is to cover also colored people as well. But that's not necessarily historical, actually, because quite of the people who are descendants of the both Khoi or San or Nama are people who are also in different ethnic groups spread across this whole country, actually. Whether you go to the Xhosas, whether you go to the Sothos and the Tswanas or the Zulus, there's quite a mixture of blood with the Khoisan and the San and the Nama. You can go on and go forth about that. So I don't think it's quite necessarily historical that only those people are the descendants of the Khoisan. But that's the argument that they're peddling, it seems.
Okay, so Thapelo, who's speaking up? Who's speaking up for the black people in this regard?
Well, look, man, I don't think that it's a matter of who's speaking up. I think different political parties are representing particular constituencies, and this is not about particular groups of people, but it's about representing the ideas that should govern the country. So I don't want to get into a discussion around who should represent which and whatnot. I don't think that's the sort of constitutional values that I think a lot of parties have accepted, including the EFF for that matter. So I think in a way the question is misplaced rather.
Well, okay, let's move back to the issues then. The group says its aim is to hold the politicians accountable and ensure they serve the people they are meant to serve. Now, would you say their anger perhaps for black people emanates from scarcity of resources in the country, and some groups finding themselves at the back foot most of the time because of this?
Look, I think the issue of black people in Cape Town, that grouping is obviously as a result of the issues of lack of government administration over the issues of land and housing in Cape Town. Obviously, there's a strain on the issue of social services in that province as well, whether you're looking at hospitals, whether you're looking at schools. So obviously the people who are outside of Cape Town, outside of the Western Cape, coming to that area would have to find schools, would have to find university placement, would obviously need to go into the clinics and use some of the services resources at those hospitals. So obviously, I think what is a result of all of these, at least the articulations by that grouping, emanate from those resources. And I think obviously the onus or the responsibility must be on that government to ensure that, as with Johannesburg, as with Durban, I think the issue is even much more hotter in Johannesburg, especially with Herman Mashaba and the issue of inner city buildings with foreign migrants and so forth. So Cape Town is also having to deal with those issues. But again, what's quite interesting about the scapegoating is that they're scapegoating people who are citizens of the country. So obviously then takes on a racial lens. But again, this is a historical matter. For a long time, color has been a marker of cultural or civilizational issues, or issues of whether people are they part of a particular civilization or are they not, or do they constitute humans or are they not human, or are they embryonic humans in a sense.
Okay, Thapelo, this is where it really gets interesting. The group wants its own currency and flag. You got to be kidding me, right? This is a joke, right? Tell me it's a joke.
Look, again, we need to historicize that discussion. There were three provinces in a sense in this country prior to 1994 who wanted to succeed. One of those was in the Northwest, or then there was KZN, then there was, I think, the Western Cape. But obviously, I think the two biggest ones being the KZN in the Western Cape. So it's not new. Again, you see a re-emergence of that discussion, particularly now, KZN being a hotbed around the issues of land and the Ngonyama Trust there. So in the Western Cape, it's not new. This is not the first time. There's, I think, another political party which has advanced the very same argument that let them have their own currency, let them succeed from South Africa, and let them be their own country in a sense. But I don't think that's going to work out. Again, South Africa is a unitary state to an extent, given the divisions of powers at provincial and obviously regional levels. But that sort of sentiment is there. But I think it's an issue of, again, resolving some of the issues around the national question. So how do you form a nationhood out of different nationalities? I think that's still a burning question, because once you don't obviously apply, or distribute services accordingly, those issues of around belonging are going to reemerge, as we saw again in the Northwest when the former leader Mangope had passed away last year. So those issues emerged around, but we had services and so forth. And right now, post-1994, there aren't any services. So until we wrestle with the issues of class, in a sense, of distribution of services, and making sure that people are on an equal par materially, then we can at least deal a dent or blow in the country.
All right, Thapelo, now finally, do you think South Africa will ever be able to shake itself off from the politics of color? And if so, what would it take for us to get there?
Look, I think I'm not quite sure what you mean by politics of power. I would assume that you're talking about, the racialization of South African polity and our economy. And for me, sometimes we create an artificial distinction between, racial politics as them being not really substantive, or they're not quite issue-based. They have quite a material form and material manifestation at the political and also at an economic level. So like I said, color for a long time has been a marker of culture, has been a marker of economic success, has been a marker of intelligence, and so on and so forth. But certainly some of these issues around racialization of our economy and our society have to be dealt on head on. And obviously some of the elements around class, the inequalities there, income inequality, particularly around there, and the levels of poverty have to be dealt with. But certainly there will come a time when South Africa is able to move, beyond some of these, these regional groupings or ethnic identities or racial identities and so forth. And because part of all of these things, while people can hold on to these identities, the issue is, how do you fashion a South African nationhood that celebrates its diversity and beyond giving lip service? I think it's still possible. I think it's still very much possible. And some of the political parties, again, would have to espouse that sort of vision. But I think our constitutional vision is quite there. It's well articulated. It just needs to then say, what should we not allow as part of the framework towards this vision?
All right, Thapelo Telepati, thank you for your insight and analysis. That was our political analyst, Thapelo, talking to us about the new Cape Flats group, Hopfall Capetonians, making waves.